Coming up.
It's not cold read material, is it, really?
You're unhappy, I can tell.
Maybe too much.
I can't get the wurzels out of my head.
Now, what did you do with that potato line?
That's called leaning into the different potatoes.
How do you say that?
Everything just stopped there for a moment while we listened to Phil.
I mean, we could try.
Come on, I could have got that.
Just a lot more creative thinking, isn't it?
That was lovely.
Very interesting.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Pulled it off, definitely.
And now, enjoy the podcast.
How do you say that?
How do you say that?
How do you say that?
How do you say that? Hello and welcome to today's episode of How Do You Say That, sponsored by BritishVoiceover.co.uk, the podcast for voiceovers, podcasters, and anyone else with a professional interest in how your script should sound. Let me introduce my fabulous co-host, Samantha Boffin.
Hello.
Hello. Now, today's fun fact about Sam is that when her youngest son was born, her next-door neighbour was congratulated on the birth of his new baby.
Yep.
Is there a milkman incident going on here, Sam?
No, not at all. It's just, he is a stay-at-home dad, and he had two children. I had two children. We used to go out together a lot when my children were tiny. And so, of course, I spent, 9 months, obviously, getting fatter and fatter, being pregnant. And everybody just assumed...
that it was his.
That it was his. So when I had the baby eventually, he was congratulated. And my poor husband himself didn't get a look in. It was very funny, actually. I mean, I don't know what they thought of it. It looked as though I would have had a child every year for 5 years.
Wow.
Okay,
that's going some.
Indeed. So, and my co-host is Mark Rice, who prefers to use WhatsApp on desktop.
Yeah.
That's so weird, as he can type faster on a keyboard than he can with his thumbs.
Well, you know these young people, they just type with their thumbs at like 1,400 miles an hour. I can do that on a keyboard because I learnt to type on my mum's old typewriter. So I'm very fast on a QWERTY keyboard.
Strong fingers.
But not so much with thumbs. Weird. Of course, it's not just us here. Every week we invite a voiceover guest to come and share their opinions and their talent, of course. And this week we are wending our way over to Wales for voiceover Phil Rowe. Hi, Phil.
Hello.
Oh, it's lovely. So tell us exactly where you are.
I'm in a village called Ystalyfera, which is just on the edge of the Brecon Beacons, about 15 miles north of Swansea.
I'm just going to say before we do the biog, Sam, I could listen to Phil's voice all day and all night.
I know, absolutely. There was this kind of, everything just stopped there for a moment while we listened to Phil.
I'm sure we'll do that a lot during this episode. Anyway, carry on.
So Phil has been using his voice professionally since childhood, usually singing, until he had an illness that forced him to hang up his gigging boots in 2017. But then Phil was drawn to voiceover. This is interesting. After a poor AI voice was supplied to him for a project he was working on at the time. So, Phil, what was the project that you were working on that had an AI voice way back when?
I actually publish a magazine. So it was actually an advertisement for that.
Wow.
I got the AI voice, which was awful. And I already had the gear here. And it hadn't entered my head to do it myself, to be honest. So... I did it myself, and it just went from there. It sort of caught hold of me, and off we went.
So, absolutely. So, in replacing that AI voice with your own, and with, of course, all this recording experience behind him, Phil realised he could grow a new career from his own studio.
That is brilliant. And since that glorious moment, Phil has served hundreds of happy clients all over the globe, in English and in Welsh, with his beautiful tones. And whilst his voice has covered many different genres of the industry, Phil especially enjoys scripts that call for a little drama and allow him to explore the full range of his versatility. Absolutely. We are very pleased to have you here, Phil. Do you have a fun fact for us?
Oh, yes. It was a TV show I was on with a band, donkeys years ago. And I wasn't aware of any protocol, so we finished our song.
Right.
And then I just wandered off and sat down at the front of the audience.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
So when it came on TV, I was sat there applauding myself.
So the continuity was completely out.
It was. There was no way around it for them.
No. That is funny. Right, let's have a look at our first script of the show, shall we? And ask, how do you say that?
How do you say that?
Now, I chose this script because of you, actually, Phil, because it has a bit of drama. Well, it has a bit of drama in it because you're actually being a person. And it is a script for Gloucester Cathedral, in fact.
Does that mean it's like an audio guide?
Yes, it is. But they wanted me to be Lady something or other. I can't remember who. But
I don't think Phil and I can be lady something.
Well,
I
it
mean,
doesn't.
we could try.
It doesn't really matter because it just talks about her ancestor
Sure.
being Edward III.
Yeah.
So it could be anybody. And I got a feeling I probably did introduce myself at the beginning, but I don't think that was really important. It could have been done by a man or a woman, to be perfectly honest.
So it's definitely in character, this.
Well, you'll see from the actual script itself, yes. You're talking as if you're a person talking to the person that's looking round it's an abbey, looking round the cathedral.
But certainly one-on-one. So you are talking to one visitor who's maybe listening as opposed to a group of people.
Yes. And you take them around from point to point as that person.
Oh, exciting.
That's more and more I'm hearing that with museum guides and so forth.
And I love that. I think it's so much more immersive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's theatrical, isn't it? It draws you into it. It's more like a production then, I suppose.
Totally.
Isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
They can also change it up. You have other characters coming in and you can have almost little dramas that are played out in certain places, which is, really immersive, particularly for family groups, I think.
It's just a lot more creative thinking, isn't it?
Yeah.
I guess I'll have a go first then, shall
Fantastic.
I? Let's try and find So my ancestor was Edward III. All right. Let's see what's going to come out of my mouth, shall we?
You can do what you like.
Okay, here goes. This is a truly splendid abbey, is it not? I've travelled all over the kingdom and visited many abbeys, but rarely have I seen one as fine as this. My ancestor, Edward III, transformed this. He made it into a beautiful resting place for his father, Edward II, who's buried here. They began their work right here. They remodelled the South Transept first as a kind of experiment before they tackled the rest of the East End. All this magnificence was a grand stage for Edward II's tomb. But I'll tell you more about the tomb when we get there.
Lovely. Yeah, lovely. You really lent into your character, actually.
I believed that, and I could see the bits that I was pointing to. The only thing that I thought about was maybe more of a pause between the second and third paragraph. I kind of ran them together.
Yeah, although I think running them together is fine. The only thing that I would have said, when you said East End, you said it like the East End of London, as opposed to the East End
of the church
versus the West End. So,
yes, quite.
Quite. But anyway,
down the East End.
Down the East End.
So down there's the Queen Vic. Yes.
Yeah, the Edward III arms.
What did you think, Phil?
I could see a sort of little animated character in my mind, sort of walking you through the cathedral.
I wasn't thinking current modern day necessarily, though.
No.
I had gone back quite a way.
Now, it's interesting, me too, and I think that was correct, but what was it in the script that gave it away? I think it's just the way that it's actually written, particularly that very first sentence.
Yes, I've travelled all over the kingdom, but I've travelled all over the kingdom.
Exactly. All over the kingdom. Rarely have I seen.
Yeah,
exactly.
Nobody would say that in modern parlance, would they?
No, exactly.
Maybe Giles Brandon, I don't know.
Yes.
Or now Stephen Fry, I don't know.
There's somebody to model it on.
Oh, absolutely, yes. Quite. Phil, I am desperate to hear what you're going to do with it. I think you're going to bring something wonderful.
I think I'm going to do the same thing as you and see what comes out. This is a truly splendid abbey, is it not? I have travelled all over the kingdom and visited many abbeys, but rarely have I seen one as fine as this. My ancestor, Edward III, transformed this. He made it into a beautiful resting place for his father, Edward II, who is buried here. They began work right here. They remodelled the South Transept first as a kind of experiment before they tackled the rest of the East End. All this magnificence was a grand stage for Edward II's tomb. But I'll tell you more about the tomb when we get there.
Oh, I love that. You dialed the Welsh right down, actually. You kind of went...
that.
Yes. It kind of went really
I didn't think there was too many Welsh ancestors of Edward III.
Possibly so.
Yes, very much on the English side. But I mean, that was lovely. That had such a sort of rounded storytelling vibe, I thought.
Yes, absolutely.
That
it was really storytelling, yeah.
It was, round the fire, really. It was gorgeous. I loved that. You actually really brought it to life in terms of there was almost there was such a smile there for a start.
Yes,
but
there was.
you really kind of you were so on the one hand it was storytelling and it was sort of I could hear the fire in the background almost, but at the same time there was a huge amount of energy, actually, a huge amount.
I was imagining sort of the hand waving historian, sort of
Yes,
tweeded up.
yes.
Sort of.
I thought there was almost a knowing wink there as well.
Yes.
Down where they remodelled the South Transept first, it's almost like you know where this story is going.
It's not often I get accused of knowing
That's what it
stuff.
felt like to me.
And actually, you're beginning to make me wish I'd had slightly more fun with it myself.
Oh.
There was a lot of fun in that, I felt.
Go on, Sam. Show us what you did then.
Okay. This is a truly splendid abbey, is it not? Well, I have travelled all over the kingdom and visited many abbeys, but rarely have I seen one as fine as this. My ancestor, Edward III, transformed this. He made it into a beautiful resting place for his father, Edward II, who's buried here. They began their work right here. They remodelled the South Transept first as a kind of experiment before they tackled the rest of the East End. All this magnificence was a grand stage for Edward II's tomb, but I'll tell you more about the tomb when we get there.
Oh, I thought that was lovely. And I also thought there was plenty of fun in there.
Oh,
There
good.
was. The character really came out. And I was I could see you in your fine clothes. It was like you were trying to tell us the history of the family as well.
Do you know what I imagined when I was doing it? I imagined at the time, but doing it now. I imagined, like the ghosts in Harry Potter.
Yes.
There's the Ravenclaw ghost who kind of, the grey
Yes.
lady who kind of, and I was a slightly more animated version of the grey lady, slightly more interested.
It's lovely. That's one of the lovely bits of voiceover is just getting to play with your imagination, isn't it?
Yeah. And it really works for things like this as well, because to be honest, you can be anything. And I think from their point of view, from the client's point of view, they just want you to bring something that's not flat.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's right.
Yes, they don't want it red. That's the last thing they want, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting.
Play, how do you say that?
It's worthwhile remembering that these are real scripts we've been working on, but we've changed the names and some details to avoid copyright issues.
Indeed we have. Now, Phil, tell us a bit about the script that you've brought to us.
Oh, right. This was actually it's an internal script, so it was for boardroom.
Okay.
But the client wanted some drama injected in. They had a beautiful video for it to go over, and they really wanted some sort of drama and gravitas with it.
So it's more than your plain old corporate that gets played in a boardroom every so often. There's drama and there's feeling and there's,
That's right.
Eastern Delights vodka. Is that?
Wow.
It has got some horrible names in here, though, Phil.
It has, yes. Sorry
Thanks
about
for that. Thanks for bringing that. So can you take us through them? So Sakurajima
Peninsula
Sakurajima and
in Kagoshima.
Kagoshima, like Hiroshima, Kagoshima.
Yeah.
Presumably. Oh, gosh. Well, I'm absolutely sure I'll trip over that, Sam. I don't know about you.
Yes, well, yeah, I think I'm going first, so you'll be happy to hear that I have too.
I did read the first line and think, oh, have they just stolen it from an M&S commercial?
Yes.
It's like, is this copywriting 101?
Okay. This isn't just any vodka. The Eastern Delights vodka is a symbol of Pan-Asian craftsmanship where each ingredient is meticulously chosen from the finest offerings across the continent. In a blend that pays homage to the East, the Eastern Delights vodka is triple blended with distillates of exotic Longan honey from Taiwan, robust barley from the towering Tibetan highlands, and an extraordinary mixture of different potatoes. To perfect the blend, it's proofed with the ultra-soft water that flows from the picturesque Sakurajima. Sakurajima. With the ultra-soft water that flows from the picturesque Sakurajima Peninsula in Kagoshima, Japan. Kagoshima. God, that's so difficult,
That
isn't
would
it, when
take
you
me
say it
3
out
or
loud?
4 times.
Yeah, it's not cold read material, is it?
No, not really.
Sakurajima Peninsula in Kagoshima.
It's the combinations of words, isn't
Yeah.
it, that are just sort of out of pattern with your normal speech and things.
Was the bit that you really liked about the different potatoes?
Oh my God, the different potatoes
It's
was my
great, isn't
favourite
it?
bit.
I thought the read was lovely, and you went
It
in
was,
quite
yes.
you went in quite softly, I thought, and it got more storytelling as it went on. So when you got to In a Blend That Pays Homage to the East, I was really into your story about it then.
Yeah.
Oh, you're unhappy. I can tell you're unhappy. I
And
can
am.
tell.
No, I am, but because you kind of think, oh, come on, I could have got that. But yeah, it's just like, no, you're absolutely right.
It is really an excerpt because there was quite a bit before it that was very dramatic.
Right.
And then
Right,
it sort of
okay.
slipped into this. So that, you just sort of hit this bit running. And I mean, that line, so like you say, that this isn't just any vodka, it's difficult not to have that M&S advert
Yes, it is.
playing
It
in your
really
head,
is.
isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm wondering what I'm going to do to try and maybe bring more drama
Yeah.
to it. I might try and overlay a bit of character on it rather than me, which is what
Yes.
we've been talking about in the last few weeks in the podcast, actually, isn't it?
Yes,
So
yes,
rather than a
yes.
straight read, just overlaying something on there. I'm not quite sure what yet, though. Let's give it a try then. This isn't just any vodka. The Eastern Delights vodka is a symbol of Pan-Asian craftsmanship, where each ingredient is meticulously chosen from the finest offerings across the continent. In a blend that pays homage to the East, the Eastern Delights vodka is triple blended with distillates of exotic Longan honey from Taiwan, robust barley from the towering Tibetan highlands, and an extraordinary mixture of different potatoes. To perfect the blend, it's proofed with the ultra-soft water that flows from the picturesque Sakurajima Peninsula in Kagoshima, Japan.
Ooh.
I know I got that wrong, but I thought I would go for it.
Lots of drama in that.
Yeah.
But I would say
Maybe too much.
Yes,
but
exactly.
again, we could pull it back, you know?
As
Yeah.
a starting point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. As what does Emily Jardine call it? The pancake read. The first pancake you throw away.
You throw away the first
Yes,
one. Exactly.
exactly.
Which we don't do on the podcast, of course, because that
That
entirely
is
is
Yes.
it kind of teaches people where we come from. Yes, we could pull back on that, especially the extraordinary mixture of different
Extraordinary
potatoes.
mixture.
I heard you laugh and snigger at that point.
Love a
Sam.
different potato. Love a different potato.
A different potato.
I enjoyed the fact that you attacked that. As I say, I kind of feel I need to do more attacking.
You actually only got one vowel wrong in that whole read.
Oh.
That was it.
Oh.
Well,
vowel.
he's a pro.
Now, Phil, I'm fascinated to hear how you actually did it, especially as you were saying that there was quite dramatic stuff just above this part of script.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be
Okay.
Interesting to see how you go into it. Yeah.
This isn't just any vodka. The Eastern Delights vodka is a symbol of Pan-Asian craftsmanship, where each ingredient is meticulously chosen from the finest offerings across the continent. In a blend that pays homage to the East, the Eastern Delights vodka is triple blended with distillates of exotic Longan honey from Taiwan, robust barley from the towering Tibetan highlands, and an extraordinary mixture of different potatoes. To perfect the blend, it's proofed with the ultra-soft water that flows from the picturesque Sakurajima Peninsula in Kagoshima, Japan.
It's so listenable. Now, what did you do with that potato line?
I just
Well,
You tell me,
just
what did you
followed
do?
through. I can't get the wurzels out of my head when I...
That's called leaning into the different potatoes.
That is
But,
leaning into the
leaning
different
into the
potatoes, indeed.
But what you did so beautifully, and you were able to get, of course, those flipping pronunciations at the end, you actually went slightly slower over them. You gave them some space, which is a really good
Yes, you
tip,
did.
actually, to do. You sort of did a little brief...
But I think that comes from once you've sort of done it a few times, isn't it? You know, you do it and fluff it and do it and fluff it. And you sort of end up giving yourself that space as you relax into it kind of thing,
Yes.
did you?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
because you see a word like that and you've there's a bit of tension when you're approaching it, isn't there?
Yeah, I think so. And so I think that's a really good tip. That's one that I will try next time. It's a tip I give to, funny enough, it's a tip I give to other people. But it's not one that I actually took on board myself.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly. So there was a real Anthony Hopkins feel to the weaving of that,
yes.
I felt, which you must hear all the time, which must be annoying. But
Interestingly, I think because we'd just been talking about the M&S ad, I actually thought you went into it quite M&S ad, actually, in that first line, which I suspect in the real thing you probably didn't.
Quite probably didn't. I mean, this was mid-flow, so it wouldn't have been sort of the same
so
start.
It's quite different, yeah.
Yep. And it's only because those words are very much, this isn't just any. That is almost copywritten for M&S.
You can hear Samba Party playing in the background, can't you?
Really lovely.
I'll say it again, could listen to you all day.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
How do you say that?
And that is the straight script part done, guys. So that's it.
Ooh.
And now it's the section of the show where anything can happen. Because it's the wild cards. So let's see if we can approach these lovely scripts in a completely different way.
Phil, can you pick one of the scripts for Sam to do and think of a new motivational genre for her?
Yes.
Okay, I thought sort of, that sort of female pathe news kind of...
Or vintage. Yep.
The vintage English sort of instructional read.
That's interesting, Phil, because I've certainly done that before in the wildcard. I don't think you have, Sam, though, have you?
No, I haven't. I haven't. In fact, I don't think I've ever been asked to do it.
Really?
I've never done it before.
Whereas I think your voice... Remember when you did Joyce Grenfell a few weeks ago? I think it kind of leans towards that slightly.
Okay. Slightly, yes. And which script do we want?
Script 2, please.
Right, okay then. Okay. This isn't just any vodka. The Eastern Delights vodka is a symbol of Pan-Asian craftsmanship, where each ingredient is meticulously chosen from the finest offerings across the continent in a blend that pays homage to the East. The Eastern Delights vodka is triple blended with distillates of exotic Longan honey from Taiwan, robust barley from the towering Tibetan highlands, and an extraordinary mixture of different potatoes. To perfect the blend, it's proofed with the ultra-soft water that flows from the picturesque Sakurajima Peninsula in Kagoshima, Japan.
That flows from the Far East.
Yes, I should have done that.
Nicely done. I think that's probably what they would have done then. I love that.
That was lovely.
I knew you could nail that. Absolutely. It just needs the little bit of crackle over the top of it, Phil, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
There is a rhythm to the Pathe News, a definite rhythm.
But that rhythm would also be reflected in the way it had been written, wouldn't it?
Of course it would.
That's the
course
thing.
It would. Absolutely.
Probably, yeah.
Well, Phil, guess what? It's your go now.
Oh, no.
I'm going to choose one for you. I'm going to get you to do script 1, so the tour around the abbey.
Right.
And I would like you to do it much bigger than you did the first read, almost as a king. So your ancestor Edward III, you are Middle Ages king, proclaiming. So rather than taking people round the abbey, you are proclaiming this. This is your inheritance. It's your family did this.
Okay.
Very proud.
Okay. This is a truly splendid abbey, is it not? I have travelled all over the kingdom and visited many abbeys, but rarely have I seen one as fine as this. My ancestor, Edward III, transformed this. He made it into a beautiful resting place for his father, Edward II, who is buried here. They began their work right here. They remodelled the South Transept first as a kind of experiment before they tackled the rest of the East End. All this magnificence was a grand stage for Edward II's tomb, but I'll tell you more about the tomb when we get there.
Lovely. Big.
Absolutely
really nice.
Talking to the minions, and if they didn't like it, they could shut up and get to the back.
Yes, yeah. Loved
Actually,
it.
I found it quite hard to stay Welsh.
How interesting.
Did you?
It was bizarre,
Isn't that interesting?
How interesting. gosh.
I don't think I've done any loud Welsh. This is the strange thing.
I think in video games people have missed a trick if they haven't asked you to do that.
Yeah,
I did
sure.
do one Welsh, the Welsh infantry, Welsh regiment, Welsh Fusiliers.
Right.
So I did some sort of Welsh battle cries. But other than that, all my Welsh has been just, spoken.
Producers listening, exactly, you know what to cast Phil for now. It's beautiful. I suppose, Sam, I ought to have a go, really. It's like, if you can think of something nice for me to do.
I can. I want you to be. I want you to be a librarian.
Okay.
Ooh.
And I want you to be quite a nervous librarian.
Well, nervous as opposed to snippy.
You are quite far down in the librarian chain of command.
So the snippy one's up here and I'm right. Yeah, okay.
So you took on this job. I'll give you a whole backstory here. You took on this job because you thought it would be quite, you'd be able to fade into the background a little bit. You're quite a nervous person. But now you've got to address an entire school party.
Oh. So I'm guessing you want script 1.
No, I want script 2.
Do you? Oh, that is tough. That is tough. Right. Okay. All right, let's give it a try. Nervous. This isn't just any vodka. The Eastern Delights vodka is it's a symbol of Pan-Asian craftsmanship, where each ingredient is meticulously chosen from the finest offerings across the continent. In a blend that pays homage to the East. The Eastern Delights vodka is triple blended with distillates of exotic long and honey from Taiwan, robust barley from the towering Tibetan highlands, and an extraordinary mixture of potatoes.
Are they different potatoes, or are they the same potatoes?
Just potatoes. To perfect the blend, it's proofed with the ultra-soft water that flows from the picturesque Sakujima Peninsula in Kagoshima, Japan.
Really?
Well, there's always one in the group, isn't there? There's always one.
I could see you fiddling with your spectacles all the way through that.
Yeah.
At one point, I looked over to the snippy librarian just to see if I was doing it right.
Ah, right. And they raised one eyebrow.
They raised one eyebrow going, yeah, just get on with it. Yeah, exactly. I don't know if that came across.
They won't bite. Just do it.
That's quite difficult, that.
Pulled it off, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Very lovely. And completely different from how you did it in the first place.
Well, I'll tell you what, people listening, if you want to play along in the privacy of your own booth where there's people not listening, we've put the scripts in the show notes, so you can have a bash yourselves, no problem.
Yeah, and we would love to hear from you if you have any wildcard genres you'd like us to have a go at ourselves in a future episode. So you can DM Mark or myself on social media, or just comment on one of the How Do You Say That posts. Or you can email at podcast@britishvoiceover.co.uk.
So let's turn to our voiceover question this week. Slightly geeky, but Phil and Sam, let's embrace the geekiness, shall we?
Yep.
Okay.
How many voiceover mics do you own?
Well, Phil, actually, how many voiceover mics do you own?
Four that I use. If I'm doing maybe a lot of different characters, there's
Right.
4 mics that I might turn to. But I have more mics, but some of them I don't use.
Do you? You've got more than
You've
4.
got more than 4.
Wow.
Yes.
What's your favourite one?
My favourite is an NT1A, boring old NT1A, which is the most boring answer I could come up with, really.
And is that the one that you use for most things, or do you swap and change depending on what effect you need?
I do use it for most things. I've also got a Synco D2, which is a shotgun mic.
Right.
Which I will use. It's a bit darker than the NT1A. I've got another sort of large condenser mic, and then I keep an AKG D5 dynamic mic here as well. That I find useful for some very loud things.
Oh, okay. So maybe for computer games or something, if you've got to be really loud.
I did to do half hour of screaming not so long back, and I used that for that because it was just easier. It was more controllable, to be honest.
Interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So for things like that, a different mic might make a big difference.
Yeah.
I have to admit, Sam,
Yes?
that I only own 2, and I really only use 1. I use it for everything. You mentioned a couple of weeks ago that my mic proximity is good in terms of I know the characters and I know where the proximity is. I think that's because I do use one mic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I found a mic that I really like. It's a Lewitt LCT pure Sub-Zero thingy from Lewitt, and I can't remember it. I can't remember what the actual title of it is. I really like it. It works for me.
Well, oddly enough, singing, I would never have changed my mic, ever.
Oh, interesting.
In just the same way, because I knew the mic that I had.
Yep.
And you sort of know where to place yourself for different things, and as you say, you get to know the mic.
That singing mic, do you still use it?
Yeah, it's that AKG D5, yeah.
Ah, okay. And my other mic is Sennheiser.
What kind?
I can't remember. I
You
can't
can't
remember what
remember. It's
number
just
it
a
is.
sort of standard Sennheiser. No, I'm saying this as though I know a lot about mics. I do not know a lot about mics.
I'm now proving myself to be the least geeky of the three of us. I'm so pleased.
Well, no. I mean, to be honest, I don't really know much about mics myself. I do have a few. I started off with one that I now kind of just have a backup. And I do a lot of teaching, actually in-person teaching. So that's my mic that I take with me because it doesn't... It can stand being, carried about a lot.
Yep.
But the two that I could use in my voiceover booth would be the one I'm using now, which is a Sontronics Aria, which is a valve mic. But I've got a TLM 103. But that is very much now it used to be my main mic. It's now very much a backup mic should anything go wrong with this one.
Could either of you bring yourself to part with a mic?
Oh, God, no. When you replace it, you always keep the old one, don't you? That's a really good question.
Because
Yeah,
you
no,
do
you're
see
right.
mics going for sale second hand, and I look and I think, these people are farm animals. Every mic I have, and I have some really cheap mics as well,
Yeah.
they've all got something that you think there's something appealing about each type of mic,
And you learn to work with it.
Yes, absolutely.
You go to a directed session at someone else's studio, it's someone else's mic. It's what comes out of your mouth and the breathing and everything else. It's the
Yes.
performance
That's right,
as opposed to the microphone. I mean, it's great for your home setup, but you can't guarantee that that's the sound you will have always.
No, and I have noticed that when I'm at an outside studio, I sound different again.
Different. Sometimes better, sometimes not as good.
No, mainly better.
Yeah.
No.
Mainly better.
And the same goes, of course, to all of us working from home, because we learn to produce our own voices as well.
Yes, of course. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that can sort of
Yes,
fly
that's
in your
right,
face with
yeah.
a directed session sometimes.
Oh, well, we learn a lot on every episode, as we know. Well, let me say a huge thank you to our guest, Phil Rowe. Thank you, Phil, for coming on. I hope you've enjoyed it.
It's been wonderful. Thank you very much for having me. It's been great fun.
We have
Pleasure.
loved having you.
We'll put all your details in the show notes so that people can find you and give you that dramatic king role that I absolutely see you deserve.
Definitely.
Marvellous.
Yes. Remember, out there, you can subscribe to the podcast on your favourite podcast platform, and the latest episode will magically appear on your device every Friday.
It's magic. That's it for this week. Thanks again to Phil for being a superb guest. Tune in next week for more scripts and another fabulous voiceover guest where we'll be asking, we do this bit all together. I know you've listened to the podcast, Phil, so we'll do it all together. When we'll be asking,
How do you say that?
How do you say that?